PT on Ice Daily Show. Welcome. This is Wednesday, going to be Jerry on Ice. My name is Dr. Jeff Musgrave, currently serving with the older adult division. Super pumped to be talking about this topic. This is something that has been very meaningful to me when I have done it well, and things that have kind of gone sideways when I haven't done this well. But we're going to be talking about a recipe for success. Now, I am going to be focusing this through the lens of the older adult. It is Wednesday. But I think this is relevant to all your clients, whether you're PT, OT, if you're a fitness pro. This is going to be really helpful to keep things on track for your older adult clients or any of your younger clients or athletes, to keep them engaged and make sure that you're framing up this journey of recovery or this journey towards strength and athletic performance. But before we do that, what we want to cover, there are just a few things. We are taking a little bit of a break in the older adult division for the holidays, but we're going to be back in no time. So January 4th is going to kick off Essential Foundations. And then January 12th, if you've already had Essential Foundations, you can sign up for Advanced Concepts. And maybe you've already had those or you're looking to see us live. We're going to be back live on the road. We're going to be having 2 live options, and we have more spots booked than ever. If you've been looking to catch us on the road, or maybe it's been a few years, you've noticed that we've updated our content. We're teaching some new techniques and you want to see us again, we'd love to have you hop in live. We have a lot of fun covering practical skills. We're there to help you refine those skills. Just a great time. We love getting to do those live weekends. So lots of stuff coming for the older adult division this year. Would love to see you guys. So we're going to get into it. So a recipe for the perfect session, older adult or any of your clients. I really feel like that comes down to 3 things. There's 3 things you must do to frame that up successfully for your older adults. 1, you have to know very accurately where they've been. You've got to know where they are that current session. You've got to be able to communicate that very clearly based on the starting point. And then you've got to frame up for them where they're going, that you have a good idea, a very clear idea of that meaningful goal and the promised land for that patient, whether that's within your bout of care or whether that is something that they're going to need to work for months after you discharge or after your time with them ends. Maybe you're in acute care, home health, and maybe you only get a few interactions to really drive that home, to help promote some life change, some lifestyle change, to keep them out of that scenario, out of those behavior patterns that got them started to begin with, that ended up in your care. Okay, so getting that long range vision on where they're going. Before you can do that, I'm going to recommend, if you do not have that meaningful goal locked down or how to get to that meaningful goal, what I mean are those BS goals like, I want my pain to be better. I want to walk better. I want my balance to be better. That's not a target you can hit. It's not clear. It's not objective. And you've not got it to the meaningful stage. So what I'm going to recommend is, if you are struggling to really drill down and figure out what that meaningful goal is and why they ended up in your care, you need to just go ahead and stop listening. And I've got 2 reference podcasts for you. Okay. So one was relatively recent. Dr. Jeff Moore on episode 1322, Making Fitness Personal. Great step-by-step guide to make sure you're digging deep enough. Another episode I would recommend, Back to Baseline is BS with Dr. Julie Brower. That's episode 829. If you're still a little foggy on how to drill down deep on that goal, I give you permission to stop listening, check those out, and then come back to this when you get time. So we're going to assume that you have done that well, and we're going to continue. So we're going to dive in here. Where they've been. Kind of a vague statement, but we have got to really understand through listening and asking great questions day one during what we call the process. Okay. Older adults often don't get a fair shake in the medical system. People push them off. They don't listen well. And what that leads to is not getting an understanding of where they're coming. oftentimes for older adults, they've been through some type of crisis. There has been something that has triggered that bout of care, whether it's acute care, whether it's outpatient, and we need to have a very clear understanding of where they've been, what their journey has been like. Now, I'm not talking about a complete history of 6 decades of time. What I'm really talking about is, was there an injury? Has there been an increase in fear from a fall, maybe a hip fracture recently? Maybe it's been a sickness that they didn't recover well from. Maybe it's lost function that they may experience a transition in care if they're not able to get their strength back up, improve their balance. Maybe family members are starting to worry about them. They're like, "Ooh, Betty, I don't think you should be getting your groceries anymore. I think we need to get that for you. I noticed you barely made it up the steps last week." There is some type of event that has triggered your care for them to come see you for help, regardless of what setting, regardless of what age, really. This is the same for everyone. But we've got to be able to establish that crisis moment and what made them pick up the phone and say, "Hey, when's your first available appointment? I got to get in there. This cannot continue. I can see where this is headed and I don't want to go there." Okay? So we need to be crystal clear on what triggered that episode, where they've been, how many times they've been through this, if care in the past was successful or not. There's a lot to glean from figuring out where they've been. But we've got to make sure that we get a very clear, objective measure of that. It's got to be that emotional experience. There's probably going to be some emotion involved for our older adults, or real fear. If we can build that trust in the first session, really dig deep to that meaningful goal related to function, we're going to have something very tangible to work with. And we're going to need that information as we go through this bout of care, whether we're talking a few days or we're talking a few months, or maybe you're a fitness pro and you get to keep people for years. Okay. You need to have this information. The next step, where they are. We have got to frame up where they are each session. We should have established a good baseline on that first visit, something objective that's meaningful. I think a lot of times we lose our clients, and specifically our older adult patients, when they cannot see a clear connection between their problem, their functional issue, and what we're doing in rehab, what we're doing for their care, the movements that we choose. If Betty is worried she's not going to get to play with her grandkids at the holidays and she sees them once a year, if she's sitting in a chair doing seated marches and leg kicks and ankle pumps, I can't make that connection either. I can't defend that program, and Betty's not going to see the connection either. But if Betty's program looks like lifting and carrying someone who's about the weight of her grandkids, I bet she's going to be motivated to do that. I bet she's going to be able to see that it's meaningful to be able to go from barely able to pick up 5 pounds and carry it around to being able to pick up and carry 20 pounds or 25 pounds. If we know on day one, Betty's capacity in the area that's meaningful for her, the goal, the reason that she came to you, she sees that clear progress, Betty's in. Hook, line, and sinker. We're reeling Betty in at that point, and we can keep her on the line. We're not going to be worried about Betty doing her home program. This is what she wants. We're not having to make these long explanations of physiology and biomechanics of how strengthening the quad here and then strengthening the hip flexors here is going to lead to her being able to do this functional task. We don't have to do that at all. She can make the connection very clear. And we've got to have consistent markers in the sand. So we've got to know where she started. And then we've got to know where she is each day. Each time we have an interaction, we need to frame it up for her. It's really good to remind your clients, hey, I know you had a tough week. Maybe they got sick. They weren't able to do their whole program for a week, and they've had a little regression. If we can clearly say, hey, Betty, I know today wasn't your best performance, but remember where you started. Remember where you've been. You were only able to lift and carry 5 pounds. Yeah, I know you couldn't do 20 pounds today. Hey, you've been sick. That's normal. but you still did 15. That's 3 times. That's a 300% improvement in your capacity on the thing you care about. We're still on track. It's really easy to point when we've got those objective markers along the way, just like a good stock price. You invest in a stock, your clients are investing in you. They're investing in your services, their time, their money, and what they want to know is, yeah, it's not going to be this nice linear line. Recovery is non-linear. It looks more like a stock price. As long as it's going up this way and you can clearly point them back to their progress, where they started and where they are, you're going to be fine. You're not going to lose those clients. They're not going to get disengaged. You're going to be able to get them through those regressions and those bumps in the road, because we all know they're coming. Those flare-ups are going to happen. They're going to get discouraged. They're going to get impatient. But if you can do those two things, those ingredients are in your plan of care every day, you're going to be far and above most people with serving your clients and keeping those things framed up. But there's still one more thing that I feel like is really valuable that we need to have in our recipe for older adults, and that's where they're going. We need to have a really clear picture of what success looks like for them. Like our example with Betty. Betty needs to be able to lift and carry the grandkids and no one hold their breath when she does it. You know what I mean? Like, their parent looks over of the grandkid, their daughter, and they go, when they pick up that grandchild. We want it to look easy. We want her to be confident. We need the parents to feel confident, their children to be confident in them. So if we know that is going to be worth it, that's one of the most meaningful driving forces in their life, it's going to be really easy to keep Betty motivated. We need to reorient her to where she's been, where she is today, and where she's headed. And I think this last piece becomes so important for older adults, that we frame this accurately. I feel like sometimes we feel this burden to tell people what they want instead of what's realistic. And I can tell you from doing that wrong time and time again, it works a lot better if you can say, Betty, I'm going to be able to get you this far on your journey. I'm going to be able to get you about halfway. The rest of this is going to take months. We start this conversation day one, framing how we're going to get to the promised land. And we remind her of that plan. What's that activity you really enjoy? You're going to continue. We're making incredible progress. How does that continue when you're done with me? What community-based fitness program, what sport, what exercise do you want to try that's fun and exciting, that's practical, that's easy, that's fun, with people you enjoy being around? We've got to make the right thing the easy thing for our older adults, especially if there are steps after our plan of care ends. So many times we make great progress with our older adults, but we forget to set that reasonable expectation. We forget there are other people that need to be involved, and that plan needs to be evolving to get them there so they can really meet that meaningful goal. We like to call that being a hope dealer for older adults, like what life could be like. This is also going to help you when there are flare-ups, when there are issues that your older adults are, they're struggling a little bit. They're having a bad week. They've had complications. Their life has gotten stressful or things have changed. We've got to clearly cast that vision because we listened really well on the first visit. We know why they came to come see us. So that's what I've got, team. The 3 things that you've got to do. The recipe for success, whether we're talking about older adults or we're talking about anybody and everybody. We have got knowing where they've been. You've set a meaningful goal. You know where they've been. You know what crisis, what triggered your plan of care. We can tell them exactly where they are on that journey. And then we need to know where they're headed. We need to frame up where they're headed, probably almost every session, to keep our older adults engaged. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope some of this was helpful. If you've got thoughts or experiences that you can share with us, please jump in the comments. I'd be happy to dialogue about that. Enjoy your Wednesday. Take care, team.